Good afternoon, councillors, members of the public, officers. Welcome along to our first Ordinary Council meeting for 2019. I declare this meeting open. And in doing so, I wish to acknowledge that this is Wadani Noongar Boodja, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. I also welcome quite a large contingent from the Bunbury senior citizens. Welcome along, everybody. Great to have you here. Ross, if you want to have an AGM at the conclusion, please feel free to use the room. It's a captive audience tonight. You certainly have. Councillors, in the last week, we've all received quite a bit of information from the CEO and the directors regarding the next 6 months of many millions of dollars of projects which we have on our agenda and on the CEO and the directors' tasks ahead. I just thought I'd share some of my observations with you for the year ahead, and these are my observations. So, the internal and external led changes within our city will escalate over the next 12 months and will continue to do so into the future. This will require the elected council and executives to be more nimble and adaptive than ever before. We can no longer rely on business as usual approach as our roles and responsibilities. In the past 12 months, the community engagement with council has changed quite significantly, and I believe this will escalate more rapidly into 2019 and beyond. The majority of our community use information technology in its many formats to make direct contact with our customer service staff. There has been an escalation of that use, and our officers are constantly examining ways to make that form of communication more user-friendly. The technology is fast, current, and reliable. Our role in assisting, informing and facilitating economic and social growth in the Bunbury Geograph region and occasionally the Southwest region will continue to grow. This includes the essential collaboration with the state and federal governments and key stakeholders and stakeholder organisations such as the Bunbury Geograph Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Bunbury Geograph Economic Alliance and our neighbouring local governments. Whilst our focus will always be doing whatever we can that is in the best interest of our Bunbury community, those interests will continue to extend beyond our city boundary. And my fuel costs for the period of January were $68.13. We're all here, declarations of interest. We have in the agenda papers the interest by Councillor McCleary and Councillor Cook. Councillor Kelly has also declared the following interests. With respect to item 10.2.4, which is a rate exemption application by Accord West, he's declaring a financial interest and will leave the room. And with respect to item 10.32, he's declaring an impartiality interest as he is a member of the senior sits and will remain for the debate and vote. Are there any further declarations, councillors? Thank you. Can I have someone move confirmation of the previous minutes of the OCM?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Is there a seconder? Councillor Brown, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. Can I have someone move, we move on to 7.12. Can I have someone move the recommendation?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cook, seconder. Councillor Hayward. Now I believe there's going to be some debate. Speaker against, Councillor Kelly.
I think the mover and the seconder might go first, Mr. Mayor.
Do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak later.
Wish to speak? Councillor Kelly.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I wish to debate against these minutes as tabled, as I believe that they don't represent a true and accurate record of the annual electors meeting 2018. And should this motion be defeated, I propose an alternative motion that essentially will defer the confirmation of the minutes for a round, direct the CEO to contact the ratepayer, Mr. Fenton, and to request the CEO to review and amend the minutes of the City of Bunbury annual electors meeting held on the 4th of December. So I'd like to build a careful case on this one, councillors, because minutes can be tricky, to say that the minutes we're being asked to confirm don't represent the meaning, sense and substance of the CEO's response. to the questions asked by Mr Fenton at the annual electors meeting. And essentially my case is that the minutes don't reflect the subtext and the implications of the CEO's answers, and therefore cannot and should not be confirmed as a true and accurate record. And it's important for answerability and accountability, as stated in our agenda papers there: integrity, establishing trust through openness and honesty, and accountability for our actions and performance. So, firstly, taking minutes is an essential part of formal meetings, and we know that. And indeed, in my time as a public servant and on community committees, I've taken countless sets of minutes. And taking the minutes is a skilled job, because the minute take has to follow many voices, sometimes some mumbling voices, and summarise accurately what is said. And meeting minutes can be long and detailed, or they can be short and to the point, depending on the nature of the meeting. The annual electors meeting is a very important meeting in the annual calendar of the City of Bunbury. So what is important is that a set of minutes should never misrepresent or omit important elements of fact that might leave a reader misinformed or the truth otherwise lost in the general milieu. And the CEO says quite rightly that the minutes are not recorded verbatim, and I agree with him. The difference between annual electors meeting, of course, and meetings here is that these meetings are streamed and they're recorded, and you can get a transcript if you wish. However, when he says that what is provided in the draft minutes of the annual meeting of electors is a summary of the answers provided to Mr Fenton, I have to disagree. And I attended the annual electors meeting, as some others did, and when it came to item 4.1, which were the questions which have been received, and Mr Fenton put his questions informally, I clearly recall him asking those three questions with some preamble, and equally I recall unmistakably the CEO reading responses from a prepared text. Now, the CEO said to me, or he said by email, that his notes he used at the meeting were for his information and were not tabled as being part of the record of the meeting. And okay, that's fair call. But the problem here is that Mr Fenton, who is here and has contacted me, and I forwarded an email to the rest of the councillors, is adamant that what was read, what was said, was not precisely what his perception of the situation was. So consequently, the minutes that we're being asked to confirm do not enable what was actually said at the meeting to be challenged by Mr Fenton or by anybody else for that matter. The CEO says that the notes he had on the evening were for his reference only and were not tabled at the meeting, and therefore are not official records for the purpose of keeping minutes. Under the State Records Act, that's probably quite true. But I contend that by reading these notes that were prepared for beforehand for the purpose of a dedicated response to the formal questions that were put by Mr Fenton, that the notes are important enough to be accurately minuted, and the gist, if you like, and the form to be captured. So particularly if there's any contention about what they contain, which there is for one ratepayer. And it's important that those minutes satisfy that ratepayer in the interests of accountability. And in this case, the minutes and the minutiae of the minutes are important, and until we get that settled, then we're going to have a situation where there's going to be loggerheads. So what I'm asking is that if you find that this can be voted against as it stands here, the recommendation that the minutes of the City of Bunbury annual meeting of electors held 4th of December 2018 be confirmed as a true and accurate record, vote against that, and if it goes down, then I have an alternative motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I'm going to speak in favour of the minutes being confirmed as a true and correct record. We have professional, long-serving staff within the City of Bunbury organisation. I think there were 2 or 3 officers assisting the CEO with the minute taking of that annual electors meeting. And I think the time, if we ever get to the stage where we need to have, with all due respect to the gentleman named by Councillor Kelly, we ever get to the stage where we can invite a person who attended an electors meeting to meet with the CEO to agree on what the minutes should be, then I think that's a pretty sad state of affairs. Is there a speaker against?
Sorry, sir. I just have some questions, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. It's just that in section 7.1 and 7.1.2 of the table of contents of the minutes, just for everyone's clarification, they actually don't appear on the appendices. So I was just wondering why we have all the other council advisory committees and working project groups and ordinary council meetings which was being circulated, but these ones here are up here on the agenda, but the special electors meeting does not.
The minutes of the annual electors meeting.
Yes, sir.
CEO.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I need to confirm. I thought they were sent as an attachment.
Yep. Just wait, thanks Councillor Steck. I've certainly received a copy of the minutes.
Defer to the manager if I can, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Galinsky.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Ordinary practice, obviously electors meetings only happen once a year. The ordinary council meeting minutes are never appended as an appendix to the agenda. They're distributed as soon as those minutes are completed.
Yep.
On this occasion, we've done exactly the same process with the minutes of the electors meeting. They were distributed to councillors and the public via the website within, I think, probably 4 days of that meeting being completed. So they're not appended as an appendix per se to this agenda.
They have been circulated.
Correct.
Is there a speaker against? Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only to say that because there is a bit of contention and we're not going to lose sheep stations over this, to defer this and have the minutes worked out with the CEO would be appropriate, I think. Thank you.
Speaker 4. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Kelly for raising the matter and for your response as well. I have done a little research and I went back to my training days and found a guide to meetings and it clearly states the minutes do not need to be a verbatim transcript of proceedings and there is no legal requirement to have a full transcript. I then go to the Local Government Act, which refers me to the regulations, 1996, Regulation 11, which covers the contents of minutes of a meeting of council or a committee is included. So under item E, a summary of each question raised by members of the public at the meeting and a summary of the responses to the question need to be in the minutes. That is the case that we're talking about today. So councillors, I do urge you to vote for this motion and get it off our books. Thank you.
I'll put it all in favour. Please indicate. Those against? That's carried. Those against were yourself, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Smith, Councillor Steele, Councillor McCleary. The rest were for. (7.13) the Advisory Committee Roadwise Committee minutes, 3rd of December. Councillor Steele moves. Councillor Hook seconds. All in favour. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. That also includes the Youth Advisory Council, Disability Access and Inclusion Committee. Are there any petitions? Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the screen suggests, pursuant to clause 6.102 of the City of Bunbury Standing Orders 2012, I table a petition on behalf of Mr. Graham Wills and 51 signatories and ask that Council receive the petition and refer it to the relevant officer for a report to be submitted within the next 2 rounds of council meetings. The text of the petition is seeking a proposal for a bus shelter on the west side of the Ocean Drive opposite Ocean Star Aged Care Facility located at 207 Ocean Drive, South Bunbury, and goes on to the Mayor and Council of the City of Bunbury. We, the undersigned, being electors of the City of Bunbury, support the addition of a bus shelter at the bus stop at the location mentioned previously. I'd like to table this, please, sir.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Steele, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Cook. Councillor, we have a request from Jacinta Thompson to speak to item 10.3.2. Those who agree, please indicate. That's agreed. So when we get to item 10.3.2, I will invite Jacinta Thompson to do a 5-minute presentation. Method of dealing, councillors, with the agenda tonight. 10.2.1 comes out, it requires an absolute majority. 10.2.4 comes out. 10.3.2 and 10.3.4. Are there any other matters which any council wishes to? Sure.
The 10.4, was that 10.4.1 or?
4.2. Any further items that anyone wishes to pull out? Can I have someone move the balance, please? Councillor Steck, Councillor Cook, all in favour. That's carried unanimously, thank you. So 10.2.1, we need an absolute majority. Council, can I have someone move the executive recommendation? Councillor McCleary, Councillor Miguel, is there like to be any debate? I'll put it all in favour. It's carried unanimously, thank you. 10.2.4, thanks Councillor Kelly. Someone prepared to move the exec recommendation? Councillor Hayward, seconded Councillor Cook, all in favour.
Sorry, sir, can I just make a comment?
Do you want to speak? Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry, Councillor Steck. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. It's just that I know that at this particular point in time, we don't have any authority to go against the Local Government Act, but I still oppose the fact that we seem to be having no movement at the station, sir, in absolutely clarifying Section 6.21 of these exemptions. It's just clearly unfair cost shifting to local government.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Steck. I think we're all in agreement with you there. Is there anyone who wants to speak against that recommendation? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can you invite Councillor Kelly back in, please? So we move to 10.3.2 and I invite Jacinta Thompson to come forward. Welcome. There's a clock in front of me which has got the 5-minute mark, so off you go.
Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the senior citizens and Meals on Wheels. I'd like to clarify, Bunbury Senior Citizens is not a business. It's a non-for-profit vital service that caters for a part of our community that receives very little support. We're not asking for funding to stabilise Meals on Wheels or the cafe. We are asking for funding to provide a place for seniors to come to participate in activities to enable them to keep fit and active. We also provide a safe place for our members to meet and to get guidance when required. I would like to clarify part of the officer comments that states Centre Committee's disapproval of the working group recommendations. This is incorrect. We were given a choice of 2 options by the working group, and the Centre Committee unanimously voted and accepted the first option. I would also like to say how very disappointed I am in the executive recommendation that a request for marketing support be declined. We are confident that with rebranding and marketing, we could increase our membership and attendance to the point of being self-sufficient in the foreseeable future. We simply do not have the funds to finance this ourselves. Let's also address the elephant in the room. There have been suggestions that some people believe we are situated on prime real estate and that council would benefit financially from this site. Firstly, we have no problems with the council providing us with a purpose-built centre to move to. However, you must bear in mind the current site was bequeathed to the council to be used to benefit the seniors in the community. Bunbury Senior Citizens is the only major regional centre that does not have permanent funding from their council. Our centre manager has not had a pay rise in the 6 years she has been employed in that position, and that is directly due to a lack of funds. This is outrageous. Busselton is funded to the council to an annual amount of $88,000. This is reassessed every 3 years and increased if needed. Geraldton is funded by council to the annual amount of $104,000 and even more if and when required. Mandurah is entirely funded by the council to approximately $500,000 annually. We were lucky enough to meet with the Mandurah staff last Friday, and when we explained the plight we were in, they were absolutely stunned that we were not funded by a council. Mandurah have 7 full-time staff. We have 1. In the past, we received funding from the state government to the amount of $100,000. In 2014, it was found out we were no longer eligible for this funding, and it was cut. Since then, we've cut our expenses down by $50,000. However, this still leaves a deficit of $50,000, the amount of funding we are requesting. Our centre manager, Bev, and I have had several meetings with Mr Rob McNabb from the working group, and we have gone through our finances with a fine-tooth comb. Mr McNabb also observed our kitchen preparations with a view to reducing any wastage. Mr McNabb was pleasantly surprised at the very minimal food wastage in our kitchen. As a result of our discussions, Mr McNabb recommended we increase our meals by $1. In the first part of this financial year, Bunbury senior citizens have increased our prices as recommended with further annual increases, installed an EFTPOS machine, fine-tuned and reduced our expenses as far as we possibly can. We're in the process of revamping our outdoor dining area to make the area more appealing. We've secured ongoing funding of our treasurer by a local businessman in gratitude and for the support his grandfather has and continues to receive by the centre. We have several new committee members with great new ideas and enthusiasm. We've turned around the Cafe Meals on Wheels to an almost break-even spot with a mere $400 loss. We've opened an op shop in May 2018 that has proved very popular and a financial boost. We've negotiated a contra deal with Bunbury Geograph Chamber and Commerce of Industry. The financial facts from our forecast to actual dollars in the first 6 months are: Meals on Wheels cafes up, income is up by $2,100, wages costs down by nearly $8,000. There also appears to be a major push to close Meals on Wheels and cafe. I find this train of thought completely incomprehensible, as the service that this provides does not exist anywhere else. Community Home Cares delivers meals that we cook, but it may take 3 weeks to get your meals. Our manager, Bev, myself and our committee and our members would be devastated if the centre was forced to close through a lack of funding, as we put our hearts and souls into doing everything we can to save the centre. Can you look at these people and say no to our request? I look forward to your acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to point out, councillors, that 10.3.2 subclause 3 requires an absolute majority. Will someone move the executive recommendation? Councillor McCleary. Seconder. Councillor Smith. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Tonight we have what I believe a very responsible recommendation from our executive staff in regards to the financial assistance asked for by the members of the Bunbury Senior Citizens Association to ensure accountability, progress on new initiatives and make certain the revamped business plan evolves and rolls out. There are key performance indicators that will be put in place in consultation with the Senior Citizens Management Committee and our executive staff as per the recommendation. And remember, it will always come back to Council for consideration in a timely manner. One might ask, why should Council put their shoulder to the wheel and dig into their budget coffers for such a small organisation? It is local government policy that we assist and look out for our seniors in our community. As an elected member, I believe we all take this responsibility very seriously, and I hope especially now in their time of need. At the Bunbury Senior Citizens Association, the majority of members are not 55-year-olds. They are not even the new self-funded baby boomers. Most of our seniors are elderly, well over 75 plus, and are pensioners. Most have lost their spouses, have been affected by war, disease. Anyone remember the polio epidemic and other medical nasties of the 30s, 40s and 50s? This club is their one source of social contact, so important for their mental health and a sense of well-being and belonging. Our elderly have earned the community and the council's respect and unwavering support because they were the people who had the grit, the self-determination and community spirit to build Bunbury up to what it is today. They never wavered in their belief in community, neither should we in their time of financial need. When other senior citizens associations have almost gone to the wall, their councils have picked up the gauntlet, providing staff and ongoing finance. Mandurah, Busselton and Geraldton. Those councils have already been mentioned. Could the association run better on an improved business plan? Of course. Our many briefings over the past 2 years tell us that there is always room for improvement in all not-for-profits and private enterprise. Should we turn our backs on their financial plight simply because we do not understand the complexes of running such a not-for-profit or disagree with how it is functioning now? Definitely not. The recommendation has all the necessary safety measures to ensure accountability. The only questions you have to ask yourself to support this recommendation are: do you believe there is a need for a not-for-profit senior citizens association, arose by any other name, to serve our Bunbury elderly? And are our elderly worthy of the city's assistance for a few years until the new and revitalised business plan is working and the association is moving towards financial independence once more? I conclude yes on both accounts. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Well, thank you, Mr Mayor. I certainly concur with the comments of Councillor McCleary. It was quoted by one of the members of the committee the other day that the senior citizens cater for a part of the community that no one else supports. Now, I've been attending meetings as the council representative for the last several months, and I've got to learn a bit about what the senior citizens do. It's not only the fantastic pool table, Councillor McCleary's Zumba classes, they also provide a service to people who don't have family members or have family members who live away. Who else will help them put in their hearing aid? Who else will help them when they need to do a will by recommending someone who might do it for them a little cheaper? Who else can they go to if they need an accountant to complete their tax affairs? Senior Cits helps them with all these non-things that we don't know about, and there's probably many more. I support the executive recommendation except for point 2, which I disagree with, and hopefully, Mr Mayor, if these are put separately, I'll be voting against that. These people are the people, as Councillor McCleary said, that have built this town. How would Bunbury look if we didn't support our senior citizens? I frankly would be most ashamed if we didn't do that. We owe much to this cohort of people. And as the speaker for and mentioned, the young businessman in this town funds the treasurer to do the books for the senior citizens because of what they've done for their grandfather. So this is an organisation that is worthy of our support. I think it would be irresponsible of this council not to support them. Thank you.
I will take these items individually. Councillor Smith, is the Speaker against?
So can I move a new motion for item 2, and that is the council adopts and accepts that we take a 10x7 advertisement in our double-page spread for at least the next 2 months.
Just flag that as an alternate. Vote this one, vote 2 down, and you can move that. Speaker against? Okay, I'll put item 1. All those in favour, please indicate. It's carried unanimously. Item 2. All those in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's carried. Item 3 requires an absolute majority. All those in favour, please indicate. It's carried unanimously. Item 5. All those in favour, please indicate. Item 4, I beg your pardon. I'm looking at Maureen's numbers flying everywhere. Item 4, all those in favour. That's carried unanimously. Item 5, all those in favour. That's carried unanimously.
Mr Mayor, could I just ask that the votes on number 2 be recorded, please?
For those who voted against, please indicate again. Councillor Steele, Steck, Brown, Kelly, Smith and Cook. That's 6. 6 all. I'll use my casting vote in favour. I didn't realise it. I thought there was 5. Yeah, okay. I counted 5 initially. There you go. Okay. So record the fact, Maureen, that using my casting vote on 2. We move to item 10.34. Just before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, if you all wanted to remain for the duration, you're welcome to do so. If you would like to leave now, I'll just pause for orderly exodus. I'm not kicking you out, I'm just saying if some of you want to leave, I'll wait. Most of you want to leave. Yeah, it's okay. I think we can continue, councillors. We're up to 10.34. There is I'm looking at someone to move the executive recommendation here. Councillor Steck, seconder for the executive recommendation. Councillor Cook. Is there likely to be any debate? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously, thank you. 10.42. Someone move that recommendation. 10.42. Councillor Steck, seconder. Councillor McCleary. Councillor Steck, do you wish to speak? Councillor McCleary. Speaker against. Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, you all might know by now that I do have an interest in history. When I was at university in the late 1970s, early 1980s, there was no study of West Australian history, none at all. The 150th anniversary of the establishment of the West Australian colony may be remembered for some of us who are a bit older than the younger ones in here, but that kind of sparked an interest in local history. When I was at university, we learned about the Spartans, and I was an expert on the Tudor and Stuart constitution in medieval England. I mean, what use was that to someone who lived in Bunbury or Perth? But in the late 1970s and the 1980s, we started being interested in West Australian history, led by fantastic historians like Jeff Bolton, who happened to be one of my tutors, Rika Erickson, and Leslie Marchant, who wrote that fabulous book on the French explorations of the West Australian coast. So I think that it's important that Bunbury, to the council, knows where our beginnings began. That's our wide history, of course, because we know that we've had Indigenous occupation of this land for pushing 40 to 60,000 years. So I think it's important the city enables and supports Mr Bischoff. What is the problem with us writing to these organisations, asking that they assist Mr Bischoff to put down once and for all where Governor Stirling put that post on Stirling Street? We thank Mr Bischoff and those who are interested in the history of Bunbury for bringing this to the council's attention, but I think it's the council's interest to know these facts. So I will be voting against this motion, and should it fail, I'll be putting an alternate motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Speaker 4.
Sorry, sir, can I hear the alternate motion?
Do you want to inform the meeting your alternate motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor. I was just thinking I'd leave the recommendation as it was and just put a clause D in there that said the city works to enable or works in support of Mr Bischoff. I wouldn't go so far as to have a round-table discussion, but I think that if the city added its weight to Mr Bischoff's request, we might get some more answers.
Could I just suggest that we have like an endorsement letter or something from the city?
So, Councillor Steele, do you want my attention?
Yeah, sorry.
What, Councillor Steele?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
You're welcome.
I was just wondering whether we could have like an endorsement letter if D, because then that wouldn't go completely against the recommendation. It would just be in addition, whether it's D, we do an endorsement letter for Mr Bishop from the city.
Yeah, I think that's what Councillor Smith's getting at.
Yeah.
I'm happy to entertain that being a D now, providing the mover and the seconder are. So, Councillor Smith, do you want to just read, you say in your words that the city supports Mr Bishop in this mission?
Mr Bishop in this quest by writing letters of support to the State Library West Australia, or those entities mentioned there.
Okay. So, mover and seconder happy with that? Okay.
Part 3 and
Yeah.
I just bring a point of attention to the manner in which that's phrased.
Councillor Kelly, just excuse me for 2 minutes. The CEO is just suggesting that becomes a 3.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
We all want to help you, Bernard, but we don't want to meet with you. We all good? That is a support, that's fine. Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against 1, 2 or 3? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Can I have someone move we continue behind closed doors, please? Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Hayward, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. So